Yeah, okay. Sunday, Vayetze, Tov Shenayin Tes. Baruch HaMabon B'Shem English. I'd like to welcome Hilchos Shabbos to the Shir by Harav Agon Rabbi Yakov Zev Smishlit on the topic of Amira Leakum. And this time we would like to give a Mazel Tov B'Shem English Torah and the Hilchos Shabbos to come to the Shiurim to one of the board members of English Torah, Rabbi Reuven Wolf, on his engagement of his daughter, Baruch Hashem. The Eibishter is on Simcha B'Shleimis, Abin Aliyat, Kesher Kiyoma, Simcha V'Nachas, B'Zem, B'Ale Kinder, Alle Einikelech, B'Ale Yidin Gesundheit. Rabbi Smishlit.
Someone asked me this question. He had to leave Zilzul Shabbos, I think it was from the bungalow colony, and he had to be out mamash right after this man. To call a Yiddish car service that would take him, would have to wait an hour or so until the car service arrived. So he wanted to arrange before Shabbos that a non-Jewish car service will be by his bungalow or hotel room, whatever it may be, pick him up and he could get on the road right after this man. But it meant that inevitably the guy will have to drive to get to his location to be there by this man. Is that the problem of Amira Leakum? Then we had another summer shailos where typically in the mountains they don't have mailboxes on every corner. You have a private mailbox by your colony or by your camp. So the question was to put the mail Friday afternoon into the mailbox, but then that's not enough. You have to lift up the red flag. So the mailman that drives by on Shabbos morning sees the red flag that's up, that indicates he should stop and take the mail. So what you're doing is you're putting mail on Friday, lifting the flag on Friday, but that's almost an indication to stop and pick up the mail. Then we had an interesting shailos where someone was moving cross country to a different state, and they hired a mover to take the stuff cross country. So basically, the guy is driving on Shabbos. So you have to tell the guy, don't drive my luggage, my stuff on Shabbos. The guy is driving just for the Yid. And the truth is, as we'll see, we have numerous other questions, but the point really is, in our society, we have constantly new applications of Amira Leakum. What are the basic guidelines? Someone just asked me, he was sitting in the house Shabbos, the UPS rang the bell, we have a package for you. So I can't take it. Can I sign it for you? I know you don't sign. Can I sign it for you? What are you supposed to tell him? So there's no doubt about it. Amira Leakum is a very chomedik issa. In fact, it's lav dafka Amira Leakum. The Mishnah Berurah says specifically in Reish Ayin Vav Sif Katan Yud Aleph, if the guy on his own walks into your house and he sees it's dark, and he says, I'm an experienced Shabbos guy. You don't have to tell me what to do. I know what to do. I'm going to put the light on. Don't worry, Rabbi. You have to say, don't. If he refuses to listen, Zok Mishnah Berurah, chase him out of your house. Because Amira Leakum is lav dafka Amira Leakum. The Amira Leakum is really the guy doing malacha for the Yid. But we see a different aspect in Amira Leakum that's unique amongst other Isurim. And that is, let's say the guy did do malacha for you on Shabbos. Zok Gemara, and this is Gepaskin and Reish Ayin Vav. It's also to have hanah from the malacha that the guy did for the Yid. But what's unusual is, not only you can't have hanah on Shabbos, but even Motzei Shabbos, you have to wait the time that it takes to do that malacha. For example, you have a nice neighbor who walks into your house. He says, I just went apple picking this morning. I'm thinking of you. Here, I have a few apples. Enjoy. So you're not allowed to eat the apples on Shabbos or Motzei Shabbos until you wait the time that it takes to pick the apples. Now this is strange, because if chas v'shalom a Yid does malacha for another Yid on Shabbos, we also know you're not allowed to have enough from Ma'aseh Shabbos. So the Yid's not allowed to have enough from what the other Yid did. But there's no din of Kedei Sheyasa. You could have enough from what the Yid did for you on Motzei Shabbos right after the Zman. So the question is, how could a guy doing malacha for you be more chomer than a Yid doing malacha for you? The answer is, because Chazal understood, no Yid will tell another Yid, do malacha for me. If it happens, it won't happen again. You don't have to make more of a protection than on Issa no on Shabbos. But if a guy does malacha for you, there is that chance that it becomes more common. A Rav once told me that people think that Amira Leakum is not just a heta, it's a way of life. And Amira Leakum is not a heta, and it's not a way of life. And that's what Chazal were protecting when they said Amira Leakum is asabano on Shabbos, even Matzoi Shabbos, the time that it takes to make that hano. Now, of course, there's a lot to say, but I think it suffices the words of the Chuvas Min HaShamayim Siman Daled. That was one of the Baliyat Toyser, the Yankim Mimarvesh, who asked shailos Min HaShamayim, and he got responses. And he asked the question about telling a guy to move a ner. In other words, the guy is moving muktzah for the yid, which is a shvus to shvus. So the response was, Laisigi bayod, kisakal yisakal, kalanegeya b'divreyim, kinegeya b'bavas einai. You're playing with Shabbos, that's the pupil of the Rebbeinu Shalom's eye. And especially Amira Leakum. Why? B'kama v'kaimas asu chachamim, chizik l'divreyim yoisim mishal Torah. So Amira Leakum really needs a little more chizuk and emphasis, but I think we understand that you don't do malacha, a guy can't do malacha for yid, period. Now let's try to apply this a little more specifically. Imagine the following case. A person goes to a hospital and his mazel, the door is an automatic door, you can't get in. The door opens electronically. But just then a guy walks by and also wants to go in. So the guy stands by the door, it opens. Can the yid also go in together with the guy? So l'chayra, this is having enough of malachas akum. But I'll tell you another shayla, true story. A bacha asked me the shayla, it was an off Shabbos, and the yeshiva was supposed to be closed. He walked by Shabbos afternoon, he knows the lights and the smedjish are on. So machayetz, the lights are on, it's a quiet bismedjish, he wanted to learn. He goes inside, how do the lights get on? It seems the Geisha janitor, put the lights on. I guess he also had an off Shabbos. He decided he didn't sweep on Friday. He came on Shabbos to sweep. So the bacha wanted to know, could he learn in the Bismedjid the whole afternoon? The guy put on the lights on Shabbos. The answer is, of course, he's allowed to. In both cases, you're allowed to use the lights on Shabbos, and you're allowed to go into the hospital with the automatic door. The guy did malacha on Shabbos, but you're missing one point. The guy did malacha for himself. He didn't want to put the lights on so the yid could learn. He didn't know about the yid. He put the lights on so he could sweep. Or the guy entered the hospital and therefore he opened the door. When is Amira Leakum asa when the guy does malacha for the yid? If he does it la'atzmai, there's no issa. This is one important het that we'll refer to as la'atzmai. He did it for himself. Now there's an issue if the guy might do it the next time for the yid, shemayarba b'shvilai, okay. But basically, the goyish, the person in the hospital is not doing it for you. This would be a hetabar. Now let's go a step further. Let's say a yid wants to mail letters Erev Shabbos here in Brooklyn. And he has Ruach HaKodesh. He knows no yid is going to process the mail. There's no yid working in the mail, in the postal service. But he knows with certainty, Shabbos morning, the guy comes to collect the mail from the mailbox. Is it mutter to mail letters Erev Shabbos? Again, there's no issue of Lifnei Eva. Question number 2. Someone has a chasana on Tuesday, he needs his suit cleaned. He brings it in Friday afternoon, mamash a few minutes before the Zman. He says, I need it back Tuesday. So the guy says, this is your lucky day because I have a slow business. You'll have it tomorrow, Saturday, 12 o'clock p.m. You'll get 24-hour service for the same price. You don't have to pay extra. The guy tells you specifically he's doing it Shabbos morning, you'll have it 12 o'clock Saturday morning. Both cases, think about it, the mail and the suit is not la'atzmai. He's not cleaning his suit, he's cleaning the yid's suit. He's mailing the yid's mail. This is not the heta of la'atzmai. So maybe takitz asa. But here we have a Gemara, and we'll go straight to the Shulchan Aruch because we have a big agenda. In Reish Mem Zayin Sif Aleph, the Mechaba Paskins, based on a Mishnah and a Gemara, you're allowed to mail letters on Erev Shabbos. Those days it wasn't mail. You're allowed to dispatch the courier to carry the mail. Ubilvad shalayom alei sheyelech b'Shabbos. Don't tell him to take it on Shabbos. You just be koitzed damim. You pay him for the job, you pay him for the delivery, and that's it. Now this is a l'chayra big chiddush. You're giving the guy mail, your mail, he's carrying your mail, and it's mutter. Why is it mutter? So the answer, as the Mechaber quotes the Gemara, because he's koitzitz loidamim. He did not tell him to do it on Shabbos. What's the pshat? And this is the yisai that we need. When you tell the guy to mail the letter and you pay him, you're paying him for a job. The job is not time related or time restricted. The job is to mail the letter. So it's not a Shabbos job. He could do it on Shabbos, he could do it on Sunday, he could do it on Monday. So although he's mailing the letter for the Yid, but it's not a Shabbos malacha. This is what's called in Paiskim Adaita Denafshei. It is not the het of La'atzmai. La'atzmai is, he is putting on the lights for himself, or he's opening the door for himself. Here he's mailing the letter for the Yid. But the fundamental difference is that it's not Shabbos job. It's a paid job. It's a kablin. It's being paid for a job. So this is the heta, because the fact that he chose to do it on Shabbos instead of Sunday or Monday is his decision. It's his convenience. Adaita denafshei. In other words, your job did not need Hilchos Shabbos, because all you had to do was do it on Sunday. Therefore, you can understand the next question. If you notice, I've noticed it occasionally, even in our neighborhoods, you see a truck driving around in the neighborhood. In big, bold letters, it has the letters G, period, O, period, and D, period. When I first saw it, I thought, this is Mashiach Zeiten. It's Mefarsim Alekus Ba'olam. But it's nothing to do with the Rebbeinu Shalom. G-O-D stands for guaranteed overnight delivery. Nothing to do with anything about the Rebbeinu Shalom. What is that? You want mail to be delivered overnight. Overnight it is called in business. So you pay extra and they guarantee overnight delivery. To give that service on Friday afternoon is awesome. Mail is mutter, manishtan a mail for mail. This is pashit. Because here you are violating the second half. If you pay extra for guaranteed overnight delivery, so then you're paying for Hilchos Shabbos. It can't be done on Sunday. So what's the yesod? Pashut. Regular mail is not a Shabbos shlichus. Overnight delivery is specifically for Shabbos. This is, both halachas are found in that Shulchan Aruch and Reish Mem Zayin Aleph. Now consider the next case that we mentioned earlier. You brought in the cleaners the suit, and you told him I need it for Tuesday, and he tells you straight out, I'm doing it Saturday morning. Do you have to protest? The answer is no. So why? The fact that he did it on Shabbos morning, adaita denafshei. And that's Reish Mem Daled Aleph. And the Mishnah Berurah adds, Kivan de kotzat adaita denafshei. Even if he tells you he's doing it on Shabbos, it's mutter. Now consider the next question. It's going to give us a tremendous insight to the sugya. A person is home Shabbos morning, and every Shabbos morning he rinses out a coffee cup because someone used before him. This Shabbos is a little lazy. He has a live-in maid. He tells the goiter, could you rinse out my coffee cup? By him rinsing coffee means put the cold water on, rinsing it, and fine. But the woman decides to do it really perfect, puts on the hot water and uses a sponge and soap. The kitzah, by the time she finishes washing the cup, 2 malachas deraisa were done, using hot water and a sponge schita. Now he's in a dilemma. Can he use his coffee cup? A guy did malacha for him on Shabbos. Now you think about it, this is not la'atzma, she washed the cup for him, and this is not, cannot wait till Sunday, this is time sensitive. He wants to have a coffee Shabbos. Sunday he's at work, he doesn't need coffee in the house. So here it's not la'atzma of the guy, and it's not something that could wait, it's time sensitive. But it doesn't seem that it's asa. Why not? So Rabbi say, this what I think is another type of adaita denafshei. You, Taka, want to go to do wash for you. It can't wait till Sunday. But you don't need malacha to have a clean cup. You can rinse it with cold water like you've been doing for years. The fact that the goita decided to do an extra job and do malacha, that's adaita denafshei. In other words, the lamb says the tzvei dinim, and the bigger lamb says the dry dinim. There's one heter la'atzmai the guy did for himself, that's pashut. Then there's a case where the guy could do it on Shabbos or Sunday, and the guy's choice on Shabbos, that's mutter. But this third category is the question at hand does not need malacha. It can be done malacha free. The guy chose to wash with hot water because it's a little more convenient, more comfortable, and use a sponge to make it easier. That's the guy's convenience. That's the guy's choice. But you don't need malacha, and therefore it's mutter. The truth is, both varieties of adaita denafsha, it can be done on Sunday or without malacha, are a form of la'atzmai, because the guy did malacha of his own choice. But this is something that is not a Gemara, this type, but it's mistavra, and I saw the Kaf HaChaim and Shin Lamed Zayin Chaf Aleph quotes from the Amira Leakum, and the Rabbi Yakov has a very similar yisoid. If the guy is asked to wash the floor, and the guy uses a mop, we'll soon see the details. So the Merikash says he's makel, at least b'shas adchak, because the guy could put water on the floor and use what's affectionately referred to as a sponge that doesn't need malacha. So we have two forms of adaita denafsha. Either it can be done on Sunday, or it doesn't need malacha at all. Now here you're going to ask, one second, I don't get this. You have all these fancy terms, adaita denafsha, but l'maisa, we learned in the Mishnah Berurah that if the guy does malacha for the yid, even if I don't ask him to do it, I can't have anah until Motzai Shabbat Kadei Sheyasa. I didn't tell him to do it, it's still asa. So the fact that you call it adaita denafshe, but I'm still having anah for Molecha Shabbos. The answer is very pashit. If the guy put on a light for me, I'm having anah for Molecha Shabbos. That's awesome. If the guy did something that could have been done on Sunday, or didn't need malacha, it's not a Meleches Shabbos. It's the guy's choice to do malacha. I need a clean cup. That's not Meleches Shabbos. And this is the mechaba in Reish Mem Daled, Reish Mem Zayin, Reish Nun Beis, that there's a heta of la'atzmai and there's a heta of adaita denafshi. Now let's go in order, many shailos. Hopefully we'll see how posh it is once we have the yisoid. Question number one, someone goes to a public place, hospital, nursing home, and basically, because of security, heightened security, you can't come in. You have to have a guard that sees you and feels you're not threatening, and he buzzes you in. Am I allowed to stand by the door, and hopefully he will buzz me in? Think about it. This has Allah chesroinus. Because lamaisa, the guy is doing it for me. It's not la'atzmai. And also, I need it to be buzzed in today. I want to go visit today, not Sunday. I can't wait till he's not come back Sunday. I want today. But here we have the second type of adaita denafshi. The guy could get off his, quote, kisi hakavod, walk to the door and open it manually. You don't have to have malacha to allow entrance to a hospital. He wants to be lazy and sit by his station and buzz you in. That's adaita denafshi. My hana is being allowed into the hospital. All you have to do is turn the doorknob. If he decides to be lazy, okay, he can maintain his laziness, but that doesn't mean it's a Melecha Shabbos. Getting into the hospital does not need Melecha. The guy's choice of doing Melecha is adaita denafshi, and that should be perfectly mut. What's more of an issue, someone asked just the other day, they go visiting in a nursing home, and there's even more security. To get on or off any floor, you have to deactivate an alarm. You have to press a number of buttons. Otherwise, the alarm rings. Of course, to maintain security, no one should leave. There's no way of doing it manually. You have to do malacha. So, whenever Yid visits, they have to have the guy press the buttons, deactivate the alarm. That, there is no het of adaita denafshi, because there's no way that the guy could do it without doing malacha. But the other het probably is that since you're going for a dvar mitzvah, so it's Amira Leakum, doing an Issa D'Rabbanan, deactivating an alarm, that's shvus to shvus, b'makam mitzvah of b'kachaylim, and that would justify that heter. The doorbell rings, it's the UPS, he has a package for you. After Lachas, he's singing Hashem Shabbos, the Beinim Abbas, and he's bringing you a package. What can you do? Tell him, just put it down, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Can you sign? I go, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Can I sign for you? Now, what do you say? If you say, yes, sign for me, you're telling him to do malacha. That's the Shulchan Aruch. So what you do is you tell him, listen, this is a free country. do what you want. Everybody else does that, you could do it. Do whatever you want. Now he's faced with a decision. Because if he doesn't sign for you, he's going to have to put it back in his truck and come back on Monday. If he signs for you, he saved another trip. So if he decides to sign for you on his own, that is a contemporary but a perfect adaita denafshi, and it's mutter. He's signing for his convenience. You have the package either today or Monday. There's no difference to you. That would be adaita denafshi. Someone was moving cross country and hired a trucker to bring all the stuff. Now, if you stop Shabbos, so you're losing that much time. Do you have to tell the trucker not to drive on Shabbos? So the answer is, this is our sugya. If the agreement was a kablan agreement, you paid for the job, you calculated the mileage, whatever it is. So the fact that the guy decides to drive on Shabbos is his decision. You didn't give him a time, you didn't give him a limitation. If the guy decides to stop off one night and drink and sleep 14 hours, you have nothing against him. You can't have anything against him. So the fact that he drives on Shabbos is his decision when to take off, and that l'chayr is mutter. We had this question in camp. Someone asked the Goyish worker, bring me a case of soup bowls for kiddush, for the shailos, whatever it is. So the guy was a bit lazy and got on his golf cart, and he goes to the stock room to bring the box of goods. So here you need the things on Shabbos. It's a Shabbos related shlichus. But then again, and the metzias in that case was that carrying a box of soup bowls is not that heavy. He could do it by himself without the golf cart. L'chayra, the fact that he used the car would be a question about daita denafshi. Now it's very pashut to understand. My hana of bowls can be done without malach. In fact, I could do it myself. I asked the guy to do it because that's his job. He chose to use the golf cart, that's his issue. But here there was a different problem, which in many camps is the rule. You don't use a golf cart. The guy should work and don't use a golf cart, even though it's a daita denafshi. But this is avshamilsa. Driving around in a Yiddish camp makes so much noise. We'll soon see the source of that. But something that attracts so much attention that this disparaging Kedusha Shabbos is a Zilzul Shabbos. And we'll soon see more about that. Consider the next question. You come home from work Friday afternoon, the car is krechzing, it needs a refuah. So you bring it into the mechanic and you tell him, I need it back Monday morning. So he says, you don't have to have Monday morning, I'm going to do it first thing tomorrow morning, come in tomorrow at 12 o'clock. This is our sugya. Since he could do it till Monday, adaita denafshi. The question, let's say you tell him, I want it Sunday morning. So you didn't officially tell him to do it on Shabbos, but that's what happens because you want it Sunday morning. So this is actually befeirish. I said earlier, you tell the guy, I want it done on Shabbos is awesome. And in Reish Nun Beis, Sif Beis, it says you're allowed to give clothing to the cleaners, but don't tell them to do it on Shabbos. Now, generally, this is really not so common. I mean, if you could wait till Monday, why tell them to do it on Shabbos? So, adaita denafshi is mutter, but don't tell them to do it on Shabbos. Where this is negei, I saw a very interesting example. The Hilchos Shabbos and Archaim Siman Samach Vav was asked a question by someone that wanted to put in a advertisement in the Saturday newspaper, and he wanted it in that paper. The metzias is that they only print Friday night for the Shabbos morning paper. Zok the Hilchos Yaakov, the person gave it in Wednesday. He wanted to be mekel because it's a daita denafshi. But Zok the Hilchos Yaakov, that's not true. No one prints the Saturday paper on Wednesday. You do it on Shabbos. So by telling him you want in the Saturday paper, it's like you're saying, I want you to print on Shabbos. So that would be a good example of our Shulchan Aruch. Adaita denafshi is mutter unless you demand it to be done on Shabbos. Now, the fact that he could do it on Monday, even if he tells you, I'm doing it on Shabbos, makes no chilek. Mr. Bura and Reish Mem Zayin, Gimel says, even if he tells you I'm doing it on Shabbos, you could allow him to do it, that's not a problem. Question, you bring your car into the mechanic on Wednesday, and you say, I need it back on Monday, plenty of time. He says, Oh, when it rains, it pours. I am so backlogged. I have so much work. I'm not touching this car until Saturday. You want it Saturday afternoon? Fine. But not before Saturday. I'm just too busy. The chayra, now we have a problem. Because he's not going to do it till Shabbos. And we'll soon see Sunday he's closed. We'll soon speak about that. But the fact that he could do it from Wednesday till Shabbos, in this case, seems to be relevant because he's just too backlogged, he's not going to do it. But you think about it, that's the chayr still, adaita denafshe. He could do yours first, he could change the order. The fact that he chose to go in order is his decision. And that is still the het of adaita denafshe. Now, I didn't find this actual case, but the Marshag in Chelik Beis, Kuflam and Gimel has a shaila with someone hired what he calls an agent, I guess a salesman, someone to buy things for him. And the person during the week is usually busy. He only has 1 or 2 days to be his agent, Shabbos or Sunday. Now, he didn't hire him for a specific day. He hired him to buy him items by a fair, which is open every day. But he knows that the person is only available Shabbos and Sunday. And Sunday he has his own business. So basically it's only Shabbos that this agent could work for him. Says the Marshag, but Lamaisa, he could do the work on any other day. He decides to be busy a whole week, that's his issue, that is still a daita denafshi. The Marshag adds, but we find in Shulchan Aruch and Shin Zayin Dalid, if you send a guy to the marketplace, to the fair, to buy for you, and the fair is only open on Shabbos, it's awesome. Oh, that I understand, because you only could buy it on Shabbos. It's not open on Sunday. But this agent could work any day of the week. The fact that he chose to work to go on Shabbos because he's busy the rest of the week, that's his priority, that's his scheduling, that's adaita denafshi. A very important question I wanted to mention. Today many people have full-time workers, whether it's a shul, a custodian, a yeshiva, a camp, a live-in maid. Sometimes you notice that the guy is putting on the lights. You say, Reb Guy, what are you doing? I'm doing my job. Just don't leave me alone. You hire me. This is my job. My job is to put the lights on in the morning, close them at night. I'm doing my job. You hear a guy halam de shetayna? He's doing his job. That's not a daita denafshe, because his job is to work for you. A daita denafshe is when it doesn't involve Hilchos Shabbos, or it doesn't involve Shabbos as opposed to Sunday. But the fact that his job is to mechal Shabbos for you is not a heter. So that's why in any of these scenarios, a custodian, a building manager, a superintendent, a live-in maid, are all bound and restricted by regular Hilchos Amira Leakum. Someone told me, and that's why I felt like mentioning this, the minhag in a certain place of Eretz Yisrael, he says there was a official Shabbos guy, quote, volunteer. I said, what do you mean? The guy sat in a strategic position. If someone needed help, in Eretz Yisrael there are not so many goyim around. So if someone needed a Shabbos guy, he would come right away to your house. After Shabbos, you would send him 50 shekel. That was the agreement. Now, that is not a heter. The fact that he's doing it to get paid is not a heter. In fact, that's the whole concept of a kablin versus chir yom is getting paid. So I think either he misunderstood it or there was a lot of Hilchos Shabbos going on in that city. I imagine that the question was that someone needs a guy and is mutter to call a guy. Tzorech chayli allowed to call a guy, tzorech kotni allowed to call a guy, or any other case where a guy is mutter, but in that particular city in Eretz Yisrael, there were no guyim available. So this guy decided to make a few dollars, a few shekel actually, and he charged 50 shekel. That's fine. But there's no independent heter. If I pay him, he's doing it for his payment and therefore it's mutter. That's not true. If he's doing his payment to do work for you, that is a regular schir yom that's working on Shabbos and is awesome. A very important question, which leads us to many other questions as well. Someone is in a hotel for Shabbos and wants room service. He wants food brought to his room. Can he ask by the desk, please send me the meals up to my room? Now, you are certain, without a doubt, that those that deliver the food to your room will not walk the steps, they will use the elevator. So the question is, by asking for room service, it's inevitable that they're going to use the elevator. So if you are on the second or third floor, like many Yiddish hotels don't go too much above that, no, it's okay. But let's say you're on the 12th story and you have a pretty big meal. It's possible to do it, but it's very improbable. How do you define adaita denafshe? Does it have to be reasonable that he could do it? 12 stories, heavy meal, it's not reasonable. Or it's possible, physically possible. Could he do it? Yes. You need someone that's very determined and very, not lazy. But how do you define halachically the word adaita denafshe? Does it have to be reasonably possible or possible? The fact that it can be done physically. A more common shaila, you need something Sunday morning and you bring it in Friday afternoon. So Friday afternoon already, he's closing in a few minutes. Shabbos is Shabbos and he's closed 6 o'clock. Oh, but here's your alamdin. He could work overtime and stay a few hours and do it Matzai Shabbos. The fact that he's closed on Matzai Shabbos, so let him work overtime. It's possible, physically possible to work overtime, but he's closed. Or how about you need it Monday? Okay, but he's closed Sunday. Is that a daita denafshe? He could work on Sunday, but he never works on Sunday. How do you define the word adaita denafshe? In Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, you have a migu, you have a koyach hatayna. Here has a migu, he could have been open, but he's not open. It's not very possible. So there's a very important lead to this sugya. The Taz and Reish Mem Dal Tifkot and Hey, if you hire someone to finish sewing a beged or writing a book, and you're makbid when he finishes, it's time sensitive, and you're makbid that he should make it, that's not a daita denafshe. Why? Because he just doesn't have enough time. He's going to have to work on Shabbos. You give him a week to do a job that he has to work on Shabbos. That's not a daita denafshe. Zokt the Pri Megadim, and this I'll read the words because they're so important. Va'af im yenes atzma, ha'akum atzmai, v'yeshe b'layla yachal ligma b'chol. Maybe he could work every night overtime and not work on Shabbos, so he'll compensate for Shabbos. Mikol mokam adaita the Yisrael Ovid. This is what we're going to refer to as yenas atzmai. It's physically possible to work every night overtime and not work on Shabbos and finish by Sunday. Very good. But that's yenas atzmai. He has to work extra overtime. And you look at the Pri Megadim's loshen kedarke so meduyik adaita the Yisrael Ovid. He's not doing it for his convenience. His convenience is to work 9 to 5 and work on Saturday and leave me alone. To work every night overtime, or even one night overtime, that's for you, not for me. Baraya, I never work overtime. You want me to work overtime? And you call it daita denafshe? I'm doing it for you. I'm scared of you. That's not a daita denafshe. A daita the Yisrael Ovid. You're not giving him a choice. The only heta is the male, the cleaners, the mechanic, that he could do it any day, and they choose to do it on Shabbos. This is the yisoid of yenas atzmai. But the Pri Megadim himself points out that the Yarabba in Sifkat and Yud Beis seems to be makel. That since physically he could work overtime, he decides not to. That's his decision. Now the El Yarabba is not very, very ma'irich, but Ramosh in Chelik Dalad Nun Gimel, I think he says beautiful hezbah in why this is mut. He's also makel that since he could do it at night. The Yid doesn't care. I want you to finish the job. The fact that he does Hilchos Shabbos is the guy's choice. I need a job that could be completed if you work a little overtime or a lot of overtime, but it doesn't necessarily demand Hilchos Shabbos. If the guy decides to work normal hours and not do overtime, that's the guy's decision. He wants to go to sleep. So Ramesh's understanding of Adaita Denafshe is it doesn't necessarily need malacha. So we have a machlokes, Pri Megadim, and El Yarabba. The Mishtabur and Reish Mamdal Tivkot and Chav Dalid paskins like the Pri Megadim. I saw in the Sefer Shabbos b'Shabbat Amud Reish Aleph, he quotes a Ravid that seems to say that if he could do it at night, overtime, it's a daita denafshe, but it's eine maisa chsidim v'yirei shemayim layasikein, because unless it's hatzalos nefashis or devar mitzvah, ki alev yoideim la'akel, and therefore don't be saimech on it, this heta, unless it's really necessary. In other words, he is acknowledging that the fact that he could work overtime and he doesn't the daita denafshe, but it's not worth being saimech on. Lamaisa, it seems, but I think that really the chiluk is, the word overtime is not as bad as it seems. Many people work overtime. I saw this in Rav Cohen's Seif on Hilchos Amira Leakum, and it's very mistavra, that the Pri Megadim was talking about in those days there was no electricity. Working at night was physically, emotionally difficult. You had to get a candle and work, and it just wasn't done. Today, people in the workplace don't know if it's day or night outside. What's the difference working day or night? And overtime is a very viable option very often. So it's, if it's not physically difficult to work at night, maybe takadaita denafshe. If something is difficult, again, to carry the food 20 stories on the steps, that's difficult. So again, it's hard to give a clear-cut rule, but I could say that the Ravid, one of the Rishonim, already discussed this and was makel, but felt that Yirei Shamayim should not be saimech on it unless it's a shasat chak. But the point that I think is that if it's taka very improbable because it's difficult, that the Pri Megadim Ishtabura Machmir, one should not be makel. If it's just a question of his convenience, the person works from 9 to 4. So the fact he can work till 6 o'clock, like most people know, is that so difficult? So if it's just a question of his early hours, and he could work overtime, that we are more united to be makel. The other question is, Friday afternoon he can't do it because you brought it in very late. Sunday he's closed. He's going to have to do it on Shabbos. But who asked him to be closed? So here, l'chayr, this is the same shayla. He could do it on Sunday. Physically, people do work on Sunday, but he's closed. He's been closed for 20 years. So l'chayr, it's totally in the Pri Megadim versus the Eli Rabbah that we mentioned earlier. The Shabbos b'Shabbat points out, and this is definitely right, the Chassam Sofer in a few tshuvas has this shayla and says that even though they don't work on Sunday, but that's his choice and that's considered a daita denafshe. And the Mamshik in a few tshuvas is also makel, even though they're closed on Sunday. So he points out that in the times of the Chassam Sofer and Mamshik, it was against the law to work on Sunday, because Sunday was lahavdal favdalas, the Hilchos Shabbos. It was a chaga. And even though it was illegal to work on Sunday, the Chassam Sofer and Mamshik were makel. Why? Because he could be not so religious. He'll be a fryer guy who was the shlecht. That's his choice. So if that's even when it's also to work on Sunday, kolshkein today, when it's just a question of choice. A lot of people work on Sunday. So again, we have a Chassam Sofer and Mamshik that are makel. Rav Moshe's in the next in Archaim Taka in Dalet Nun Dal is also makel. The fact that it's closed on Shabbos, closed on Sunday. So I think that's something that we can understand, that really he could work on Sunday. The fact that for 20 years he didn't work on Sunday, that's a daita denafshe for 20 years. So there also we could say b'makom tzorech there's definitely a tzad to be makel. If someone needs a car, mamish Monday morning for Dvar Mitzvah, and the person's closed on Sunday, we have all of this to be saimech on. The room service that uses the elevator, so again, it's really a few floors is conceivable. It's probable, in fact, that he could walk. Beyond that, you have a very difficult shaila that no one's going to schlep 12 or 20 stories. More of an issue when you have a wheelchair-bound person. No one's going to carry him even 2 or 3 stories. So there, if they do use the elevator, there might be a different heta that if the person is considered a chayla, even a chayla she'ein by sakana, so a chayla she'ein by sakana, even a guy could do even a lacha deraisa. So but then you have a different heta, the fact that he's a chayla she'ein by sakana, especially if he's going for a dvar mitzvah to go to daven. So that's a different issue. But just to carry things that have to be carried, and it's improbable that the guy will carry all those steps, this is worse than the fact that he's closed on Sunday. Because here it's physically almost improbable that he's going to do it. Possible, everything is possible, but probable, it's very improbable, unlikely, and therefore you have a Mishtabur and the Pri Megadim, a Machmir, and the fact, and again, even if you make an oath that overtime and Sunday, that's because it's possible, just his decision, but here it's something very physically, a lot of physical exertion. You should be careful to be makel if it's not possible to do in a normal way. Now here's interesting, a lot of hotels have a Shabbos elevator and a regular elevator. So here, the guy could use the Shabbos elevator. The fact that he is both lazy and impatient to wait for the Shabbos elevator to go every floor, that might be a daita denafshe. Okay, that I could understand. Question, you have, the guy washes dishes, so that involves two possibly surei Torah. Using the hot water is bishul, using a sponge is schita, and if they're washing it for post-Shabbos needs, so it's also achana. A yid is not allowed to wash dishes on Shabbos and Matzai Shabbos, that's the Mishnah and Masechta Shabbos. Can the guy do any or all of the above? So the truth is, the easiest shaila is if the guy is told you have to wash the dishes at your convenience. But the guy wants to go home and doesn't want to stay around till Matzai Shabbos. The guy chose to do the dishes adaita denafsha, that would be okay. For a yid it's achana, but for a guy it's also achana. But the choice is he could do it on Shabbos and Matzai Shabbos. The fact the guy chose to do it on Shabbos is adaita denafsha. If you tell the guy do it now, that's a problem. Achana for a guy is also asa, but here, in this case, adaita denafsha. The problem that the guy uses hot water or sponges. So here, again, this is something that they're doing on Shabbos. And they're washing dishes for the next Suda. They can't wait till Matzai Shabbos. You need them to wash Friday night Lamashal for the day Suda. So they can't wait till Matzai Shabbos to wash the dishes that you need. So there's no heta of do it after Shabbos. Also, it's not la'atzmai. The guy's washing your dishes. But here we could use the other type of a daita denafshe. Since the guy could wash dishes like Yid and Lahavdil wash dishes every Shabbos, you use cold water and you don't use a sponge and it washes. Yid have been washing dishes for Dairis and everything, they survived and it's fine. So they could wash beheta. The fact they want to do it in a little more convenient way using hot water and a sponge, that could be a daita denafsha. You could do it like we do it, cold water and sponge. Now, this I saw the Shmir Shabbos in Lamed Aleph, Tes is Mekel, based on a daita denafsha. Now, if the guy is given the job to wash a greasy, grimy, cholent pot, that mamish, even with a sponge and hot water, it's a big avoida, but to use cold water without a sponge is almost impossible. That's taka not a heta. I saw the Shmir Shabbos in Ha'ora Lamed Bey says that if you can't do it, then there's not a daita denafshi. But washing plates and silverware, basically that would be the heta of a daita denafshi. I should mention that the using hot water for a guy has a possible different heta. The Ramon, the end of Reish Nun Gimel says that a psik reisha for a guy is muta. Using hot water is a psik reisha of malacha deraisa, but no more than a psik reisha. We spoke about this a few weeks ago. So according to the Ramah, using hot water for a guy is muta al psik reisha. The only problem is that the Goyin and the Taz do not agree to this Ramah. So like the Taz and the Gra, there's no heta of psik reisha, but we still have the heta of the fact that it's a daita denafshi. Many homes have what's called a tankless boiler, which basically means that there is no boiler that boils the water in advance. When you put the hot water on, you activate a boiler that boils the water instantaneously. That is not a psik reisha, so then even the Ramah's heta would not apply. Let's say the guy is a lamdan. Listen to this. He says, listen, I could do it with cold water, right? So I could use hot water, right? Okay. So let me even be more lazy, and let me use the dishwasher. A double adaita denafshe. I could do it with cold water, so hot water, so what's the jump to dishwasher? So he's right. In the lumdus, he's right. It's a lamdan taka. Zilbasa taima. The hana that you need of washing dishes, you could do with cold water. But here we have what I mentioned earlier, which is not a midas chasidus, it's a Ramah. In Reish Nun Bey Sif Hey, v'yesh oisrim birachayim a mill that makes noise, uv'chol mokum sheyesh lachush lashmoas kol. Zok the Mishnah Berurah that the Ramah is giving us a klal. Even if something is mutter miyikid din, if it makes noise, if it attracts attention, if it disturbs and is disparaging to Kedusha Shabbos, that in itself is asa. It's referred to as either Hashma Avshamilsa or Zilusa de Shabbos. But basically, whatever makes noise on Shabbos contradicts the serenity, the Kedusha Shabbos, and that's awesome. Okay, the Ramah says, the Makam Seidi could be Mekel, but Hashmas, the Avsha Milsa, Zilusa de Shabbos, which means it's a steer to Shabbos, it's noisy and attracting attention, is also on Shabbos, like the Ramah. And I talk saw the Shmer Shabbos in Lamed Aleph Yud says that the guy could wash dishes, with hot water if it's possible, but not to use a dishwasher. A dishwasher is an issue of Avsha Milsa. So that's something that's important to realize. Now, for a guy to mop a floor in a Yiddish kitchen, a camp, hotel, the like. So I must mention, mopping a floor is an Issa D'Rabbanan. In Shulchan Aruch Shin Lamed Zayin Gimel, Ein Sachin Es HaKarka, V'Lamadichen Oisi Afilu Hu Merutzef. Why? The Issa of Mash V'Gumas. You're not allowed, you might come to straighten out the earth. And that's why B'derech Klal, Yidden, and even Goyim, L'havdot, should not be mopping floors on Shabbos. The Machzor Eliyahu in Simenayin has a very thorough discussion about mopping floors, and he really shows the problems involved in even a non-Jew mopping a floor. We're talking about a case where there's a tzorech. You have a big camp or a big hotel, and you must maintain, safety. It's a safety hazard if there's lack of cleanliness, summer, hot, bugs. The floors must be mopped daily. The given is that the floors must be mopped. Can you tell the guy to mop the floor? So here again, terminology is very crucial. To tell the guy to mop the floor is telling him to be Mechal Shabbos. Mopping, wringing out the mop is schita, which is a very productive schita. Washing the floor with a wet mop is another schita, the tzorech meimeyem. You want the floor to get moist. But what you should have done, or you could have done, or you could do, is tell him to wash the floor. Washing the floor does not need malacha. You could do it like in Eretz Yisrael. You throw a marble of water, and somehow it ends up the floor is clean. You use a sponger, which is plastic, no schita. So since it's shaykh beheta, but of course it's easier to mop the floor, zok the Kaf HaChaim that we mentioned in the beginning, quoting Marikash, that since it's shaykh ba'ofen heta, you could have a mopped floor ba'ofen heta. The fact that the guy chose the more convenient way of doing it, adaita denafshi. But let me be clear, washing floors shouldn't be done b'derech klal. That's the Shulchan Aruch and Shin Lamed Zayin. That's the Minig Yisrael. But when it has to be done, the guy could do it with the mop. But again, precise terminology is important. Tell him to wash the floor, but mopping is like telling him to do the malacha. Next question. Someone asked this question. They have today typically hotels and even many camps, even some yeshivas have a meat slicer. You cut the cold cuts, etc. And the question is, the guy wants to slice the meat on Shabbos with the electric meat slicer. So the emes is that, of course, you could slice meat with a knife. But to make those perfectly thin slices, especially if you're in a fancy hotel, the exact slim size that it's supposed to be, the chances of him doing 500 pieces of cold cuts is slim. Pun intended. It's kamat improbable, maybe almost impossible. 500 exactly, precise. They all should be uniform. So this is a real yenois es atzmoi, a very tremendous physical exertion, and kula hai v'ulai. So that's something that really shouldn't be done, because basically there is no way of doing it manually. Someone told me, no, but the machine has a manual part of it. You just move it back and forth. So I found out that's incorrect. You can move the meat back and forth, but the cutter, the blade, is always going with electricity. So basically you cut it before Shabbos, but not on Shabbos. If a guy wants to cut disposable tablecloths, typically in a shul for shalosh shudis or in a yeshiva, so cutting tablecloths for a yid, Rahman al-Islam, is either mechatech, cutting something to size, or minimally it's kaireya, which is a derech of tikkun. It's a very constructive form of tearing that you're creating a tablecloth. So how could you ask a guy to cut a tablecloth if for a yid is asa? So we hear all sorts of svaras that the truth is we can eat on the table as it is. But the guy will have a hard time cleaning up. He has to take each cup and each plate and wipe the spill. It's much more convenient if the guy cuts a tablecloth and wraps up the whole shailos and the whole kiddush and throws it out. Now, the truth is that's really not so convincing because to eat on a bare table is not appetizing even during the week. It's not clean. But for Shabbos, which yid's going to eat on a bare table? I mean, that's in halach and Shulchan Aruch. You have to have tablecloths. So again, it's something that he's doing it for himself, but it's also done for a yid. I don't think the yid would be comfortable eating shalshudas on a bare table. So, Lamaisa, Rav Zilberstein in the Malachim Aimnayach, Perek Tes, Siman Hay says, even if you will argue that it's la'adaita denafshe, but he says it's mechura adava, that a guy is cutting tablecloths for shalashudis or for a kiddush, it's something that is very, very much a stira to Kedusha Shabbos. So it's really important to tell the guy before Shabbos to do it, cut tablecloths before Shabbos. So someone told me as a ganze chachma that he cuts enough tablecloths for a whole Shabbos and he puts them away. So the guy could go there and take pre-cut, but and then I'll have tablecloths. So the fact that the guy cuts because he's lazy to go to get the pre-cut, adaita denafshi. It's like a migoi type of thing. But again, he's missing the boat. For a guy to cut tablecloths b'fnei am va'eda for the Yiddish use is at least a zilzul in Shabbos that definitely should not be done. Question: a Yid asked a guy to wash dishes, and this is in the olden days. There's no hot water and not even a sponge, but it's in a dark room. And the guy is going to have to light a candle to wash the dishes, beheta in with cold water without a sponge. Is that a daita denafshe? Because you can't wash in a dark room, but then again, washing dishes doesn't need malacha. So the taz in the end of Reish Ayin Vav is mekel. You need washing dishes. The guy could wash dishes. The fact that it's dark in this particular situation, your hana is wash dishes. You could have to tell the guy, don't tell the guy to light a candle, wash dishes. The guy knows that you have to put on the light to wash the dishes. That's a daita denafshi. Okay, we would have thought differently, but this is the Heilige Taz's psak. Now let me ask you 3 shailos, and let's see how we could proceed. A person was risky, this is something reckless, but he needed an hour to get from one place to the other Erev Shabbos, and he didn't have time to spare, and people don't have time for Shabbos, so he called the car service an hour and 1 minute before the Zman. Take me from place A to B, and there's no traffic. I don't know. Because he was reckless, but he made it. Then he started thinking, what am I doing? I get out of my car service. The guy is going to have to drive back to his base. He's driving because of me. Is there any problem that the guy is driving on Shabbos because of my job? Question number 2, a little more tricky. A person making a Shabbos morning simcha. He wants to have his favorite waiter or cleaning lady, but they live in Queens. They're not going to walk from Queens for your kiddush. Can I hire them before Shabbos? Please be by my synagogue at 10 o'clock. You know they're going to drive to your location on Shabbos morning. Question number 3, we began with, someone has to leave Matzai Shabbos right with this man. Can he call a Gaisha car service, be by my house at 6:12? And we're going. Now, that means the guy is going to drive to your location. So to me, the most pashut was the first case. Your job ended when the guy dropped you off Friday 1 minute before the Zman. The fact that the guy drives back, that's even more than a daita denafshe. That's nothing to do with me. I hired him to drive me. Getting back, that's your decision. That l'chayr is mutter. Question number 2, hiring a worker that must come from Queens and must drive Shabbos morning, that you need Hilchos Shabbos. Now, to say a daita denafshe, they can stay in a hotel for Shabbos. They were making $50 for the kiddush. They can spend $1,000 for a hotel. I mean, it's just more than yanai satzmai. But believe it or not, this might be the taz. My malacha that I need is cleaning up. How you get there, that's your asik. Just like the taz's case, you can't wash dishes without the candle. So that's also mutter. The third question is interesting. you need the car service at 6:12 by your hotel. There's no way to get there unless he drives on Shabbos. And again, he's not going to stay in your hotel over Shabbos. I thought about this all at Stadim. He was asked about the Yidden that need a car service in Maron to get home, and they call an Arab, same shaila, and I don't see a heta. He says, the fact that you tell him to be by your place at 6:12 is like you're telling him to drive on Shabbos. And he quotes a different Taz, that if you tell your agent, buy stuff whenever you want, but I'm leaving Matzai Shabbos and I need the stuff Matzai Shabbos. So what do you mean? How's he going to get you the stuff if he buys it on Sunday? So the Minchas Yitzchak is machmir, as is the Nishma Shabbos, Siman Kovav. But to me what the Chiddush was, that why isn't even this third case, our Taz? You need him to drive you 6:12 beyond. The fact that he has to drive to get there, that's not part of your driving. If you tell him, I need your car, I want to rent your car, I'm going to drive and you could stay wherever you want, that I can understand is a problem. But here, the fact that he's driving to get to your location, your job is to drive 6:12 and beyond. And I saw the Hilchos Shabbos on Mataf Ayin Zayin, Take'es on the Minchas Yitzchak. Why isn't this the regular Taz? Now, the emphasis could be a shtickle, a chiluk, is in the Taz's case, you need clean dishes. So you have clean dishes, you don't need an air. Here you need the car to take you. The car could only be there if he drives at 5 o'clock. But the Maisa, the Minchas Yitzchak was machmir, but I do think, and I saw Rav Shlomo Miller's quoted in the Sefer on Business on Shabbos, page 110, 157, he's also makel and matmi on the Minchas Yitzchak. This is basically the Taz. So we could say that all three cases that we had are mutta based on the Taz. Someone asked me, he was in a hospital, he needed to visit a certain patient, and he didn't know which room they're in. Could he ask the receptionist, which room is so-and-so? Now, as soon as you ask, they get onto the computer and they start punching in the information. So if there's a written list that they could access, and they decide to use a computer, that's a daita denafshe. But more often than not, in hospitals, certainly there's such a turnover, there is no written list. This is not the daita denafshe. There is no way of doing it manually. But since you're going to visit a chayla, this is a shvus to shvus, b'makayim mitzvah of b'kachaylam, that's mut. In contrast, if you're in a Shabbos convention, and you want to visit a friend, and you want to know which room they're in, and you go to the receptionist, and there is no written list. So if it's not b'makayim mitzvah, that would be a Amira Leakum, because there's no other way of doing it behet. A hotel, the waiter's walking around, what would you like for dinner? Friday night this is. And they write down your order. So they're writing malacha, but that's a daita denafshe. They could memorize it or run back to the kitchen and bring each order at a time. But this is something, I saw the Malachim Amnayach also in Perik Vav Yudches said this is wrong. This is a Zilzul Shabbos. They're writing down your Shabbos order. Think about that. They're writing down your Shabbos order so you could eat Lekavod Shabbos. This is a blatant bezoyin of Shabbos, if not Hilchos Shabbos. The secretary that wants to finish up and do some work at home. So this is Mamash our Sugi. Of course, I'm talking about a Goyish secretary. If you pay them per day or per hour, it's a schir yoim. They're getting paid for working per hour, and they work on Shabbos. They're getting paid for Shabbos work, and that's the schir yoim. That's awesome. If they get paid per job, finish up this job, you're getting X amount of dollars for the job. They choose to do it on Shabbos, they could do it on Sunday or Friday. That is a typical adaita denafshe. The question we began to put the mail in the mailbox Friday afternoon, in the mountain mailbox, and lift the red flag, sounds frightening, but it's really not. All I'm doing is I'm putting the mail that they could take it when they decide. They don't have to take it on Shabbos, they could take it on Monday. Your 49-cent stamp doesn't get you too far. Just like you're allowed to put in the mailbox in the city, why is the mountains different? You're picking up the red flag, that's like an Amira to do it on Shabbos. A red flag is not you talking, that's not an Amira, and I saw the Paiskim Amekum. Interesting story, someone arrived Friday in a hotel, I heard this from Maishay recently, and he was told, to his great dismay, his luggage was misplaced. That's a nice way of saying it was in Hong Kong. It ended up someplace in Hong Kong. But don't worry, we'll get it to you as soon as possible. So he went Shabbos in the hotel with no Shabbos clothing. Shabbos morning, they get a courier service. Here is all your luggage, and of course a lot of mileage, and don't sue us, the 9 yards. Question, the guy drove the luggage, I don't know from where, but definitely to you, just for you. And they must get it to you on Shabbos. Is it mutter to have enough from the luggage? So here it's not la'atzmai, and it's time sensitive, and basically there's no way of doing it beheter. But here we have a chiddush of the El Yerabah, the end of Reish Ayin Vav. Let's say the guy comes in, for some reason, and puts out the light in your house. Then realize what he did and puts on the light. Says the El Yerabah that it's mutter to have anah, because that's called tikkun tois. The guy made a mistake, and now only rectifying his mistake, you had anah without the guy. Tikkun tois is mutter, and it's probably a form of adaita denafshe, because he got you into trouble, he has to get you out of it. So it's very possible that our case is also a tikkun tois, because remember, you had the stuff before Friday. They lost it. And I saw Taka, one of the Heintige poems, the Miller Taka says that this would be a case of tikkun tois that's mut. Now contrast that to a different shaila, which is, I think, a mitzvah lefarsim. You told the worker, the janitor, the custodian, I want all the lights on, and Friday morning, this Saturday, Shabbos is coming, put all the lights on. Don't forget, before Shabbos, you got to put all the lights on. And the guy forgot. Can he go and put on the lights Friday night? L'chayra, this is a real adaita denafshe. You told him to do it on Friday. He could have done it on. In fact, you told him not to do it on Shabbos. L'chayra, shouldn't it be mutter for the guy to put the lights on Friday night? And the answer is al pi halach, it's adaita denafshe. But here we come to a very important Ramah. Ramah says that if a guy did malacha adaita denafshe, it's mutter, but you can't have anah from it on Shabbos. Although the Mechaba is Mekel, because Adaita Denafshi is Mutter, but the Ramah in Reish Nun Beis Siv Dalet says, even though Adaita Denafshi, you can't have enough from it on Shabbos. All the cases that we were Mekel, think about it. All the cases, the secretary did work on Shabbos, but you're getting it on Sunday. The mechanic, the cleaners, the mail, all the cases that Goy did Malacha, Adaita Denafshi, you're having it on Sunday. But what to have anah on Shabbos, the Ramah says, is improper. And then it says a Makar, in Magen Avram and Tavkuf Tezvav, Sif Kat and Gimel, a mamash our case. You told the guy, do it on Friday. The guy didn't, and did it on Shabbos. Even though it's a daita denafshe, but I know you're having, on Shabbos is us. And that's why, Lamaisa, to have the guy put on the lights is problematic. Why was the luggage mutter to have hana? Because there was a makam tzorech, he had no Shabbos clothing, and there must make a makam tzorech. But one thing I wanted to mention, that this concept is important, that having anah is because the anah was done for you on Shabbos. Generally, it's not the issue, but if it does happen, we have to be careful. Goy should not do malacha on Shabbos for anah. A guten tag to you all.
Shame Egenshu, like your biggest character, or Smith for today's share. Or Smith will give a seekum of today's share in about 5 minutes. So Kananya ben Akashem, Rotsa Kadosh Baruch Hu, Zakes, is Yisrael, Afika, Hibram Ter Mitzvah Shnei Adonai Chofetz Aman Tzidke Yagul Ter V'Yadeh.
Yeah.
I gave him a give the guy should work if they can. Fix my stem. I know that too. He does the Shabbos morning, he brings the Shabbos morning, he gets the stem. Us? He did it on Shabbos. So why is lights different? Why is lights different? I told him to do today, he did it Shabbos morning. So right there, but it's us.
Therefore you help. I heard his sex tape is coming out already. They're working on it, I don't know. It's not coming out, but they're working on it. Okay. Feels good. What's going on here? Yeshiva? What?
I don't know. And he put it out.
Ich kennt ihn eine ganze Woche. Ich kennt ihn Freitag eine ganze Tag. Das ist schon Shabbos.
Wieso still nicht nur an Shabbos?
No, aber er tut es von mir.
A guy to the nafshe, he tells you, I'm cleaning your suit tomorrow.
Yeah, but it has to be a...
It's only... Even he does, I'm doing it on Shabbos, it's looking.
Oh, well, mit Zidi soll es nicht Shabbos. Jetzt aber, wenn es ist schon
That's
Shabbos...
Hanoshe, boy.
The suit, wenn es ist schon Shabbos, now when it's Shabbos, I have no interest in sagen, it's Shabbos. Dann ist nicht gut. Es ist gut, wenn es Shabbos. Aber du, wenn es ist schon Shabbos...
Als the Hano, als the Malacha.
He could have done it before Shabbos. Right now it's Shabbos, he can't do it. Only on Shabbos.
On Amira.
On Amira.
So
could have done it before
Shabbos. Es ist schon Shabbos. Ich will ihm geben Patch, wo es jetzt im GT war. Aber jetzt ist schon Shabbos. Jetzt geht es...
That's the
The suit will ich machen.
Shabbos doesn't have it on Shabbos.
If it delivers the Zilzul Shabbos, can
Wait, so the Magen Avraham is making. Magen Avraham is making. No,
He stellt zu die Issach als Hano. Like Mechavich mi Mutter.
Ob es halt noch dann noch.
Hier sagt der...
Ich bin ja sehr schein, ich habe so eine helle Einschläge.
Go ahead, I'm Kimmin. Die Shabbat, you can't reach with this hand out that I have. Okay, good. Yes,
What are they going to do with the electronic sales? The face comes off. Some of them are not exposed. But the shailos we have exposed. They take the face plate off. Big job. Otherwise you can't get out when you're in. How do you have it go out of the hotel room?
You guys look to the room. You guys look.
If that's its purpose, yeah, what else? Simultaneously, he said again, two keys at one time. There's only one sound.
They're going to leave it at security. So you see, he can go down to the desk, walk to the desk, pick out the key, open it, bring it back down.
Put an elevator.
Everybody waits.
I once gave a shit at hotels and someone called me and said, "You're being a nice mistake." Okay, that was all different shit. This was the Amira Leakum. See, the fact that it's possible is more than I didn't know what's going on. Keep it on prime time. It was a change of all day, so I was happy.
I had someone in my
That's what you ask me.
this guy is
I remember, I got in trouble. I came back to every place. Okay, yes, it was.
why don't this wasn't everyone? No. Tradition says something he's supposed to come over. It wasn't everyone.
The uncle said his mother's book.
Yeah?
Yes,
What else is
Okay, let's clear the area before we have to call the guy, the security guard, to clear the area. Okay, seekum of today's share. Please find your seats, your standing places, and remain silent.
Just to review what we learned today about Hashem, Amira Leakum is a very serious Issa. I mean, every Issa is serious, every Darbanan is serious. But Amira Leakum, there's a special protection, even Hano Amatzoi Shabbos, Chedei Sheyasa is also. So basically, it's not a hetan, it's not a way of life. But today's sugya were the coolest in it. So basically, if the guy did malacha for himself, he put on a light for himself, the yid could have Hano from that, that's la'atzmai. It's not a malacha Shabbos. The chiddush of today's sugi was that adaita denafshe is a different form of that heta. The guy could have done it before Shabbos, but chose to do it on Shabbos for his convenience. Or the guy could have done the same result, had the same result without doing a malacha. Could have washed dishes without hot water or a sponge. That is not a malacha Shabbos. So both forms of adaita denafshe, you could do it before Shabbos or after Shabbos, or do it on Shabbos without a malacha, is what's called a daita denafshe, and it's basically a form of la'atzmai. You don't need malacha to give me the hana that I want on Shabbos. That's why you're allowed to mail letters Erev Shabbos, you're allowed to bring clothing into the cleaners or a car into the mechanic. If it can be done before or after Shabbos, and the guy tells you I'm doing it on Shabbos, that's fine, because it can be done before or after Shabbos. To overnight a package or mail is also because you are specifically instructing the guy to do it on Shabbos. The guy tells you, I'm doing it on Shabbos, but you say, I need it first Monday, it's fine. Basically, if you have to get into a public place and the guy buzzes you in, but it could do it manually, it's okay. That's a daita denafshe because of his convenience. The UPS delivers a package and, can I sign? You tell him, do what you want. Don't instruct him to sign, but say, do what you want. That's a daita denafshe. If a goyish move is moving your luggage, your possessions, and they're not mechuyev to stop on Shabbos, as far as you're concerned, daita denafshe. A worker that drives an item, but he could walk with it and carry it, that's a daita denafshe. But again, driving or going with a golf cart in a Yiddish campus or grounds is a problem of Zilzul Shabbos. The mechanic can't do it before Shabbos because he's overbooked with other jobs, but that's still his choice to do yours last, and that would be a daita denafshe. The question of the fact that it's his job, l'mashal, a maintenance manager, a superintendent, in the bungalow colony, the manager, all these people are working. It's his job to do malacha, but his job is to work for you. That is not a daita denafshe. That is a schir yoim that's working on Shabbos for the Yid. To put an advertisement in a Shabbos paper, which is printed on Friday night, is not a daita denafshe. They can't do it before Shabbos. If the guy could conceivably do it, but his convenience, he doesn't want to do work overtime, we could consider that a daita denafshe. If it's physically very challenging, it's almost impossible, it needs a major exertion, that would not be a daita denafshe, that's yenais atzmai. The guy to use the elevator for his convenience, especially if there's a Shabbos elevator, but he has no patience for that, that's a daita denafshe. But if the guy to bring up food many, many stories and To expect him to walk, that is a very far-fetched adaita denafshi. A guy that washes dishes with hot water and a soap and sponge would be adaita denafshi. If it's possible to wash dishes, that case. If you have very greasy, grimy pots that can't, that would not be adaita denafshi. Don't tell the guy to mop the floor when you need the floor mopped because of safety reasons, to keep the sanitary conditions. Tell him better wash the floor, and he chooses to use a mop. That would not be a problem. That would be adaita denafshi. A machine to slice meat very thinly, which can't be done by hand, is not adaita denafshi. A guy should cut disposable tablecloths before Shabbos. A guy that does any melacha for a yid on Shabbos is an issa b'hana. If the guy drops you off right before this man, of course that's not a shaila. He's going home on his own. If he drives to work at your place Shabbos morning, he can't walk, the paiskim are mekel. And even if he picks you up Matzoi Shabbos, we saw machlekes hapaiskim, that might be worse because you need him to drive you to pick you up. But even that, there are those that are mekel. To ask information by a receptionist that has to go on the computer for dvar mitzvahs mutter, unless there is a manual, a written list, then that's mutter, even not a dvar mitzvah, but generally today it's all computerized, and that would have to be mutter because of a dvar mitzvah. A secretary that works at home is adaita denafshi unless they're paid per hour per day. The red flag in the mountains is mutter. The anof from a malacha done on Shabbos, the Ramah is machmir. Tikkun toys, if the guy put out the light, he could put on the light. And the last shot I want to mention, because someone said a pretty good svara, if you told the guy put the light on Friday morning, and he didn't do it, and he wants to put it on Friday night. So we said the problem is having enough from the light. But it's possible that since the Maisa right now, there is no other time to do it. So from here on in, it is no longer daita denafshe. We never had such a case. Friday he tells you, I'm going to do it Shabbos, that's fine, because he could do it today. But maybe that's the svara why if the guy didn't do it, then it's taka doing it for the yid. Now, of course, this is not a case of tikkun toyis, because the light was never on. He forgot to put on the light. That's not tikkun toyis. Probably the issa is because right now on, it is not a question of daita denafshe. The only time is to do it on Shabbos. Tzorech Rabbi Yakov.